What is money? It seems like a simple question. It's the stuff you use to buy a hot dog or a video game or a slightly overpriced coffee. But what is it really? And where did it come from? Why is this piece of paper worth a whole pizza while this other piece of paper is just paper? To answer that, we need to go back, way back, to a time before money. In the beginning, there was barter, the original way of doing business. The system was simple. You have something I want, and I have something you want. Let's trade. But this had a huge problem. It's called the coincidence of wants. What if the baker doesn't want a chicken right now? Then there's the divisibility problem. How do you get change from a cow? And some goods, like fish, don't exactly hold their value for very long. Bartering was inefficient, inconvenient, and often very smelly. Humanity needed a better way. So, we came up with an incredible invention, commodity money. Instead of trading everything for everything, society started to agree on one specific item to use as a medium of exchange. This commodity money had to be something everyone found valuable, was reasonably durable, and was portable. In ancient Rome, soldiers were sometimes paid in salt. This is where the word salary comes from. Seashells were used as currency for thousands of years across Africa, Asia, and the Americas. This was a huge improvement. Now, you didn't need to find someone who wanted your specific chicken, you just needed to find someone who wanted salt or shells, but commodity money still had problems. Not all shells are created equal. Some are big, some are small, some are chipped. This lack of uniformity made large-scale trade difficult. How could you be sure you were getting a fair deal? And what happens if someone finds a giant beach full of cowrie shells? Suddenly, your money isn't scarce anymore and its value plummets. Humanity needed something better, something that was rare, durable, divisible, and uniform. And we found the perfect material, metal. Metals like gold, silver, and copper changed the game completely. They had all the properties of good money. They don't rust or decay. You can melt them down and reshape them. For the first time, trade could be standardized. A gram of gold in Egypt was the same as a gram of gold in Babylon. But even metal had a problem. Every time you made a trade, you had to weigh the metal to determine its value, and you had to trust that it was pure. This was slow, and it required a lot of trust. A better system was needed to guarantee weight and purity, and that led to one of the most important inventions in human history, the coin. Around the 7th century BC, in the Kingdom of Lydia, someone had a brilliant idea. What if we take a standard weight of metal and stamp it with a symbol that guarantees its value? This was revolutionary. The stamp, usually from a king or a temple, was a promise. It said, "I guarantee this coin weighs what it should and is pure." Coinage supercharged trade. It created trust and efficiency, allowing economies and empires to grow like never before. But as trade grew, a new problem emerged. Carrying around a fortune in heavy, clinking metal was both inconvenient and dangerous. Once again, humanity needed a clever shortcut. And it came in the form of paper. The story of paper money begins not with governments, but with private individuals. In 7th century China, merchants, tired of carrying heavy coins, started leaving them with trusted agents for safekeeping and carrying paper receipts instead. Soon, people realized they could just trade the receipts directly. The paper itself became a stand-in for the metal it represented. A similar thing happened in Europe. Goldsmiths had the strongest vaults, so people started storing their gold with them for safety. The goldsmith's notes became an early form of paper money. This is called representative money because each note represents a real amount of gold sitting in a vault. Then, the goldsmiths had an even cleverer and slightly more dangerous idea. They realized that only a fraction of their depositors ever asked for their gold back at the same time. So, what if they issued more notes than they had gold in the vault? They could lend these extra notes out and charge interest. This was the birth of banking. This system, called fractional reserve banking, is the foundation of our modern economy. It allows money to be created, not just stored. Eventually, governments and central banks took over the job of issuing paper money. For a long time, the world operated on the gold standard. This meant a country's currency had a value directly linked to gold. You could, in theory, walk into a bank and exchange your paper money for a fixed amount of gold. This gave people confidence in the paper currency. The gold standard limited the power of governments. They couldn't just print more money to pay their bills, they needed more gold first. But this rigidity became a problem during economic crises like the Great Depression. Governments couldn't increase the money supply to help their economies recover. So, in the 20th century, countries began to abandon the gold standard, culminating in the US officially severing the link in 1971. This led to the system we have today, a system based on something much stranger than gold. Welcome to the age of fiat money. Fiat is Latin for "let it be done." Fiat money has value simply because a government declares that it does. It's not backed by a physical commodity. It's backed by the trust we have in the government and the economy that issues it. You accept this piece of paper as payment because you are confident that you can use it to pay someone else. It's a shared belief system. This gives central banks flexibility. They can manage the economy by controlling the money supply, fighting inflation, or stimulating growth. but it also has a risk. If a government prints too much money or loses its people's trust, the value of that fiat currency can collapse. This is called hyperinflation, and it can destroy economies. For most of history, money was a physical thing you could hold. But the story doesn't end here. In fact, it was about to disappear. In the late 20th century, a new revolution began, the digitization of money. When your salary is deposited into your account, no physical cash moves. It's just an electronic entry in a bank's ledger. When you pay with a card or a phone, you're not spending money. You're sending an instruction to your bank to move some of its numbers to another bank's numbers. Today, the vast majority of all money in the world exists only as digital data on computer servers. This system is incredibly fast and convenient, allowing for a truly global economy, but it's still centralized. All these digital transactions are processed and verified by intermediaries like banks and payment companies. For decades, this was the final word in money. Until 2008, when a new, radical idea appeared: what if you could have digital money without the banks? An anonymous person or group called Satoshi Nakamoto released a blueprint for a new kind of money, Bitcoin. It was the first cryptocurrency, a digital currency secured by cryptography, built on a revolutionary technology called the blockchain. In simple terms, a blockchain is a shared public ledger, a digital notebook that everyone can see. When a transaction is made, it's broadcast to a huge network of computers. They all work together to verify it and add it to the chain as a new blocks. Once a block is added, it's incredibly difficult to change. Trying to alter it would break the chain, and the whole network would instantly reject the fraud. This creates a system that is decentralized, transparent, and resistant to censorship. Trust comes not from a central authority, but from the network and the code itself. Since Bitcoin, thousands of other cryptocurrencies have been created, each with different features and goals. So, what's next in this long, strange story? The future is likely a mix. Digital versions of traditional currencies, issued by central banks, will likely coexist with decentralized cryptocurrencies. The story of money is a story of abstraction, from a physical cow to a piece of metal that represents value to a piece of paper that represents the metal, then to a digital number that represents the paper, and now to a purely digital asset that represents a new kind of trust. Money is not a thing. It's a technology, a tool we invented to solve problems and cooperate on a massive scale. And like any technology, it's constantly evolving, shaped by our needs, our beliefs, and our imagination. Understanding these big stories is what we do here. If you enjoyed this journey through time, consider subscribing to Capybara for more adventures and knowledge. Whatever form it takes next, the story of money will always be the story of us. Thanks for watching. Money is the lubricant that allows the engine of our complex society to run smoothly. It allows for specialization. You don't have to grow your own food or build your own house. You can do what you're good at, earn money, and pay others for their skills. On a global scale, it connects billions of people, allowing a farmer in one country to trade with a software developer in another without ever meeting. Money is also a time machine. It allows you to store the value of your work today and spend it in the future. And it's a measuring stick. It gives us a universal unit of account to compare the value of different goods and services. But this tool has a weakness: inflation. Over time, the prices of things tend to rise, meaning your money buys less than it used to. Managing the value of money is a constant challenge for governments and central banks, a delicate balancing act. The crypto revolution isn't just about new currencies, it's about programmable money. Technologies like Ethereum introduced smart contracts, which are agreements written in code that automatically execute when conditions are met. This opens up a new world of possibilities, from decentralized finance, DeFi, to unique digital collectibles, NFTs, all without traditional intermediaries. As our lives become more digital, the nature of value and ownership is changing, and our money will have to change with it. The entire history of money follows a pattern. A new technology for trade creates new problems, which inspires a new form of money to solve them. Barter was too clumsy for growing villages, shells weren't uniform enough for kingdoms, coins were too heavy for global trade. Paper money was too slow and centralized for the internet age. Each step was a solution, and each solution created the next challenge. So money isn't just about economics, it's a reflection of who we are, what we value, and how we trust each other. Exploring these fundamental ideas that shape our world is our passion at Capybara. The one thing we can be sure of is that the way we exchange value will continue to evolve in ways we can barely imagine. From a stamped piece of metal to a line of code secured by a global network, it's been an incredible journey. What big questions should we explore next? Let us know in the comments. Stay curious, and thanks for watching. But what about investing? Money isn't just for spending, it's also for growing. The concept of interest and investment changed how we think about wealth. Early forms of lending have existed for thousands of years, allowing people to fund projects they couldn't afford on their own. Modern banking and financial markets created a system to channel savings into productive investments, fueling innovation and economic growth. Today, technology has made investing more accessible than ever before, allowing individuals to own small pieces of global companies. This has created new ways to build wealth, but also new risks to manage. The evolution of money is also the evolution of financial risk. From the risk of a pirate stealing your gold coins to the risk of a digital asset losing its value overnight, the challenges are always changing. Ultimately, the value of any asset, from a seashell to a stock, is determined by what someone else is willing to pay for it. Money is a mirror. It reflects our collective psychology, our hopes, and our fears. And its story is far from over. The fundamental questions remain the same: how do we trade, how do we store value, and who or what do we trust? By understanding this history, we can better understand the world we live in today. It's a never-ending cycle of innovation driven by the basic human need to connect and create value together. Every form of money is a seed for the next. Will our future transactions be based on biometrics or managed by artificial intelligence? What kind of money will we use when we become an interplanetary species? The challenges will be extraordinary, but the core principle will remain the same. Money is the story we agree to tell each other about value. If you want to keep exploring the stories that define our world, you know what to do. It's a story that is constantly being written by all of us. Thanks for being a part of it. Stay curious.